Well, hello there, good people. It's your boy Johny-J, and welcome to another episode of the 3C Show. And today I am in the high dune system on my local park called the Warramai Conservation Lands. And what I'm super excited about today is that we've had this massive thunderstorm roll through with this belted down rain earlier on today, and it's just flattened out the top of the dunes. It's incredible. It's left all this texture, and then the sun's come out later on today and dried out these little parts that are kind of interesting. So it's not often what you get to see up here. The normal wavy textures that you normally see in the sand dunes aren't here today, but look, I'm looking forward to scouting around and seeing what I can find. And we've got about an hour and a half, I would say, until sunset. And we've got some lovely broken cloud. The cloud at the moment, I'd say, is probably, I'd say it's probably 50% cloud cover, and we've got some lovely puffies around. So, you know, puffies are my favorite cloud. I actually don't know the real name. I just call them puffies. But broken puffies, that's what I love to see. Yeah, all right, so let's have a look around and see if we can find a composition. You can see here, I've got this dry patch, but what it is actually the edge of a sharp dune, and it runs around and goes up the top like this. And I've got the sun setting over this direction, so this scene will be nice and side-lit. And what I'm hoping is as the sun goes down, we start to get some nice shade. That shade you can see here, I want it to creep closer and closer and closer. So we'll have this beautiful shady area, and then we'll have this light section here, and the rest of the section here will be lit up by that sun going down. That's my theory anyway. We'll have to see if that works in practice. And I often in the sand dunes, I really love to shoot side on. I love side light. You know, it just emphasizes the dunes nicely. So I reckon we've probably only got, I reckon there's probably about another half an hour or so, and we'll probably take this shot. What time is it now? 5:45. So we've still got about an hour-ish, an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes actually, before this actual sunset. But because I've got this big high dune to the right of me, and I think this shot's going to happen a little bit earlier, yeah, probably half an hour before sunset, so we've still got that sun just above this high dune, but I want to really bring that shadow nice and close in here. All right, we'll see how this one plays out, but in the meantime, I think what I'm going to do is head up to this high dune behind me. Now we've scouted this sort of side-lit scene, and see what we can see, because there'll definitely be some shots when the sun gets down a little bit lower, you know, compressing the scene with the longer lens. So I'm going to be looking for that too a little bit later on. All right, I'll see you up the top. All right, so we've made it to the top of that big dune now, and this is actually a perfect spot. There's all these rolling hills in the background of all the high dunes I can see across there. And the setting sun is going to come down over this way, and it's actually going to be absolutely beautiful for that telephoto lens to compress the scene and get some interesting, you know, patterns and textures. So I think I'll definitely come back up here after we get our shot down the bottom. Oh man, it's just so good to be out. Did I mention how pumped I am? And did I mention it's been 6 months since I picked up a camera for myself? Oh, it's so good to be out shooting for myself. Oh, I miss it. I've just missed it. I've absolutely missed it. All right, let's head back down and we'll get set up for this shot. All right, little bonus tip here. If you're ever setting up in like sand or mud or debris, or there's chance of anything getting into the joints of your tripod here, always extend the legs down, you know, about a hand grip or 100 mil or something like that. It just keeps those joints out of the muck or the sand or wherever you are, and protects them from whatever's there. So yeah, sometimes like this shot, you're going to be super low to the ground. So I'm going to be folding out the legs like this and then opening them up, and then what's going to happen when I put it in the sand, it's going to protect those bottom joints there from getting any muck in them. So we're pretty much set up here now, just waiting for that light just to drop a little bit lower. The sun is nearly down behind the sand dunes over there. You can see it's not long now till it's over. And I honestly, I can shoot this in portrait or landscape, and I think what's going to govern how I shoot this will be depending on how the cloud sits in the background. It's something that's really, really important. You know, you want balance in your composition, and balance in your composition also means balance in the cloud. So at the moment, we've got this low cloud layer out in here in front, and not too much cloud up high yet. So you can see landscape orientation at this point is going to work better for this scene, okay? So let's just see what happens here. It's changing rapidly. The clouds are blowing by. You know, there's a chance we might get a portrait orientation at some point, but at this stage, I'm aiming for something in landscape. So let's see what happens. What I actually wanted to talk to you about was exposing to the right. And this is another part of dealing with dynamic range, okay? So you can see my histogram here. I'm at f11, focused about a third into the scene. You want to push the histogram up to the right as far as possible without clipping those highlights, okay? And what that does, that allows for your camera to capture the most dynamic range and the most amount of detail in your shot, okay? If you start to expose your frame to the left like this, what happens is you're not gonna have as much detail in your frame, okay? And that's super important. And whenever you're shooting, it doesn't matter what you're shooting with your landscape and nature photography, push it up to the right, and it's just gonna give you more information to play with in your final raw file, okay? Somewhere around there is pretty good. So let's just take a shot at that. We didn't get as low light as I would have liked. It's still quite blue sky, but I do like the complementary colors between the yellow and blue. I think that works quite nicely. All right, let's head back up to the top of the dunes now. And I've got another tip for you, something that's worth knowing, okay? Even though we're exposing to the right, all right, you still want to know sometimes when you've got these high dynamic ranges, you can actually still expose to the right, but still be underexposed slightly. So you want to know how far you can underexpose your camera. All right, so let's head up to the top of the dune now, and I've got another tip for you how to deal with dynamic range. I don't know if you can see down there. I'll see if I can show you on the camera there. Getting used to my new little camera here, but you can see there's these beautiful little textures. Again, it's that dried sand after that wet rain, and we've got this lovely little bowl, and it leads up to a nice little point over there. All right, so here's the back of the camera. Hopefully that reflection's not too bad there for you, but I've got this little half circle dry area here, and these leading lines, and then we've got this curve that runs around to this point, and there's also another little dune over the back there. Then we've got this thin layer of greenery, and there is actually a little bit of Photoshop work I need to do. You can see some power poles over the back there, so they all have to come out. But then we've got this lovely cloud layer at the background. But what I'm waiting for is that sun there to pop out from behind a cloud and give us a bit of nice side light across our scene down here, and hopefully we've got ourselves another nice little composition. So I'm just going to sit on that. I'm nice and high. You can see I'm a long way away from my foreground here, so it'll just be a matter. Oh, and here comes our sun. Look at the difference that foreground makes. So here's a little thing you can do when you're exposing to the right and you've got a high dynamic range scene. Sometimes you don't even have to do any bracketing or exposing for the sky in the foreground if you know how far you can push your camera. All right, so here we are. We've got our high dynamic range scene here. You can see, you know, we're looking directly in the sun. We've got that big sand dune there that's all in shade. So what we want to do is this test is to see, because often what you can do when you've got a high dynamic range scene, sometimes you can get away without having to do exposure bracketing or exposing for the sky in the foreground and blending in post. Sometimes you can just underexpose your scene, okay? And that'll hold the highlights back, and you'll know how far you can push your camera by doing this test, okay? And what I mean how far you can push it, you'll know how much detail you can hold in the shadows or open up in post without getting, you know, those crunchy shadows, without crushing them, okay? So basically what you do is just start at an aperture, it doesn't even really matter, an ISO, and what you want to do is just move your shutter speed. So the first image I'm going to take is just at my 0 meter. So it's not underexposed, it's not overexposed. It's what my camera thinks is a neutral exposure. You can see there it's on 0. Okay, and then every time, so that was about a 50th. So all I want to do every time now is just double my shutter speed. So around 100th, let's have a look at that. And that's saying it's about a third under. So around 200th is saying it's about 1 stop under now. And about 400th is about 2 stops under now, and about 800th is about 2.5 stops under now. And that's a good test. And you can see how dark that is now, and we're virtually holding back the highlights in that bright sun there. But look, you know, honestly, I would say at this much underexposed, you know, those shadows are going to be pretty crushed, even though this camera has quite a lot of dynamic range. So what that little test is going to do, it's just going to give you the knowledge of how far you can underexpose your camera and still get clean shadows, okay? And that's the important thing about doing this test. Don't forget a couple of rules for dealing with high dynamic range scenes, okay? One is you can shoot 90 degrees or 180 degrees away. That's a dead set easy way to avoid having to do any extra post-processing, any merging HDRs or blending in post. Or you can know how far you can underexpose your camera and still get clean shadows. Run that little test that we just ran through then. And we'll jump on the computer soon and have a bit of a look. I'm just gonna hang out here for this little bit now, watch this sun go down. I've actually got my tele lens out. I'm about to get my tele lens out that's back there. And let's just see, unfortunately, we're getting a bit of cloud that's building up on the horizon here. So we might not get our tele shots that we were looking for here, but that's okay. Look, I've got a couple of nice shots now, and it's just lovely being out. Man, I've missed this so much. It's just so good being out shooting again. All right, I'll see you back at the computer a bit later, and we'll go through my images and see how far I can push my camera. All right, see you soon. All right, so here we are in Lightroom, and you can see here's our 4 photographs here, starting with the first one, 1/100th of a second, 1/200th of a second, 1/400th, and 1/800th. So this is our sort of 0 exposure, you can say. So why we double our shutter speed, it's because each time we double our shutter speed, that's a stop less of light. So if we know that's 0 exposure, that's 1 stop under, that's 2 stops under, and that's 3 stops under, okay? So basically, all you need to do is zoom into the darkest area of the frame, and don't mind the composition, it's nothing exciting here. We'll head over to the develop module, and let's have a look. And basically, all you want to do is turn the exposure up, have a look. Shadows are still nice and clean there. So I know 1 stop under, my camera can handle that easy. All right, so let's have a look at the next one now. Wait for that to load up, and you can see I'm in 100% as well, so 100% is a good zoom amount to check those shadows. So there's 2 stops under, still looking pretty good there. Let's have a look at this one. So this is 3 stops under. Yeah, okay, I mean, it's still okay. I'm starting to get a bit of noise in those shadows, you can see. So 100% there, let me go back to 100%. You can I'm starting to get a bit of noise under, so that's 3 stops under, okay? So let's have a look at this last one here, and let's open up the shadows. As I said, my camera does have a lot of dynamic range. Yeah, they're really starting to break down here at 4 stops under. So, you know, I can safely say, you know, with around 3 stops under, I can still get clean shadows. And what that allows me to do, I'll just hit the auto button here. What that allows me to do is open up the shadows and pull down the highlights. You can see I've almost pulled back the highlights there as well. So that's super high dynamic range. You can see if you zoom over to the darkest part here, the shadows are just starting to break down at 3 under there. But you know what? It's still a usable photograph. I can pull those highlights back there,
and open up those shadows and still get quite a decent photograph at 3 stops under. Normally I would never push my camera this hard. I would probably, on the safe side, for this camera I'd err on the safe side, and around 2 stops under is enough for me. But you can see how far you can push your camera, and I think you'll be slightly surprised how far you can underexpose your scene and still get nice clean shadows.
All right, that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed that journey out to the Warramai Conservation Lands with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.